Season 2 of the Strange, Rare, and Peculiar podcast, a place to learn more about homeopathy, deepening your knowledge, expanding your universe of possibility in the world of health and well-being through homeopathy.
Homeo what?
Homeo what?
Good morning,
Good morning.
good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are.
Good day.
All things homeopathic, educational, historicals, and philosophicals. Here we are in Strange, Rare, Peculiar.
That's right.
All right, I got a cat. What do you got?
I've got coffee.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, look. It seems to. I'm looking outside at the bleak midwinter. In the bleak midwinter.
I love this time of year.
Winds made mine. Do you know that one?
I don't.
It's a nice Christmas carol. I used to sing it when I was a choir boy.
Oh.
Da, 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 da. I had no reference point because, of course, it was blazing
High summer
outside, and I'm talking about, what to do, to stop slitting your wrists because it's the middle of winter. Oh. And now it is the midwinter.
It is. We are leading up to the solstice.
Prawns on the barbie.
Prawns on the bar. We did once have a southern hemisphere Christmas in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, it didn't quite work, did it?
Oh, it worked just fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Prawns on the barbie.
So it's funny idea. Can we say Merry Christmas and Happy all of that stuff?
Well, I'd say happy whatever you celebrate.
Happy holidays. I mean, since living in the US, because it is different in other parts of the world. I think, I've got more homogenous cultures and stuff. So, like, Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas is a big deal. Happy Hanukkah. Mm-hmm. It's the right time of year.
It's over.
It's over. Mm. And so you say happy whatever.
I say happy whatever you celebrate, because it's not even, when we talk about the break at school, it's a winter break for us, but we have students in the southern hemisphere. So it's not even. So I've just taken to saying happy whatever you celebrate, and I hope you do it with something bubbly.
Nice.
Yeah. That way, be festive.
Right.
I think yeah. Anyway, do you know my birthday is Friday.
Don't I know about it? Yeah.
On the solstice. Uh-huh. And I am really...
Does that mean we have to get nude?
Oh, gosh. I really love that I get to celebrate it with some other homeopathy people. So Dana Ullman.
Dana?
We have the same birthday. Dana and I always send each other birthday messages.
Carol Boyce.
Uh-huh. And... Jan Schulten.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure.
There you go.
Now that you're saying that, I'm thinking, no, it is. It's Jan Schulten also.
All right.
Dana told me that, so the four of us. I wonder if there are other homeos with the same birthday.
Amazing. And it's only sometimes solstice.
It's only sometimes solstice. The year I was born, it was.
Okay.
But it's usually on the 21st.
And
this year it's on the 22nd.
37?
37. Again.
Got it.
For the
nice.
For the 21st
looking
time.
Looking good for it.
It's my 21st anniversary of my 37th
Well, funny the other
birthday.
day, we met meeting the couple that came for dinner. And I looked at them and went, you're kidding, you've got grandkids?
Yeah.
They both looked, 40.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are here to have a little
a
little celebratory update, closing out the year.
Yeah, we might get an opportunity to do a podcast before the end of the year, but this could be
Benninghausen Part 2.
This could be it.
We've got to do Benninghausen Part 2.
Why don't we just do Italy?
We will be in Italy then. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about was that, and I alluded to this at the end of the last podcast, is that we have rejiggered our program a little bit, the AHE program.
Let's talk about the rejiggering. I would preface it by saying it is a sign of health in an organization that there is consistent reflection.
Oh, yeah.
Based usually, and the educational folks love to know that reflection is based on data.
Yeah.
Or data.
Data.
And that the data is sound and that it's being reviewed soundly and decisions are being made based on the data. That is called a quality assurance or a quality improvement cycle.
Yes.
And I don't know, in my time at China,
that.
we do it all the time. I found it somewhat difficult to encourage the rest of the educational community in homeopathy to see the value of it when I was involved at China. Anyway, be that as may, if other folks don't want to do it, that's fine, up to you. But we do it all the time,
Right?
And so yeah, we're doing nothing, but we're doing everything. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because
it's
in a way, nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed in the program, except that we learned something, and that is, and it a little bit makes me sad, but not everyone wants to do everything that is in our gold standard program.
You know, it is sobering that there are, and I actually recognize it. I mean, if you're, I suppose if you are, you want to study law, and you got 10 different schools to choose from, but there's a school that says, we're going to teach you law, and then we love it, so we're going to teach you a whole lot of other stuff as well. That's kind of how it is.
Except that all the other stuff is homeopathy related. It's not sort of ancillary.
Yeah, you want to be good at what you do in the profession, then, we have found this and this and this and this and this really, really important. Yeah. But it's so interesting because we're not required to teach all of that.
Right. And so when Al said it's very sobering, the sobering moment that we had was that a few students left last year to go to a program that they said was more like a podcast with no accountability, and they didn't have to go to clinic. I had to lay on the floor and elevate my feet for a while.
Yes. And we did
just two people, but
we called the constabulary and said, what? Because they're also paying more for less.
They were paying, and it cost them more.
It cost them more
to get less
for a lot less.
So anyway, that's just all that's a little bit about how the sausage is made. So I want to start by in talking about the program. What we realized was we looked at ACHINA, which is the accrediting body of homeopathy schools. They put out these guidelines. What do schools have to teach? And it is meant to be in collaboration with or in harmony with the CHC, which is the certifying body. And so there are a list of things that need to be taught that are required. And we looked at our program and we realized that everything that we teach everything that's on that list and then a whole lot more.
And then some.
And so what we've done is we've just said, okay, what we've got now is if you want to just do what you need to get certified, you can do that.
Uh-huh.
And we can make that very cost effective because we had already been providing that and a lot more. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. So we've got that. And then we have, and there's another actually beautiful piece, which is by separating out everything that we teach our students that is beyond what's considered foundations level homeopathy. That means that any student who's enrolled with us, once they get to the point where they have achieved everything that's required for ACHINA, then you're sort of done. And everything else you can get CEU credits for, which means we can also offer that because it sits outside of our foundations program. We can now offer all of the advanced critical thinking, methodology, research, all of those courses can now be offered to anyone who has done standard foundations training.
So let's talk about what those additional topics are, because that they are the things that it's really interesting how in the natural evolution of a course,
right,
or an education program, if a gap appears, or if a student says this, or if there's feedback that comes through formally at the end of the year, you go, oh, well, let's add
just
this.
add that, yeah.
And so, obviously that's what's happened. We have 11 lectures on research.
Yeah.
I mean, some schools would have none.
Yeah.
We have we go into research in real depth. We go into history in real depth because we love it.
Well, not only because we love it, but because it informs practice.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I am a different homeopath because I've studied the history of medicine and homeopathy. It has changed me completely.
Yeah.
And it's gotten me to ask a lot of questions. Like in the last episode when we talked about Benninghausen, we talked about history and context. And that becomes a major qualifier for the application of principles.
Yes.
And they're great stories.
We also teach complex case management.
This is the thing. This is the differential.
Yeah, and I'm kind of proud of that one.
Oh, yes.
My God, and we, and so it's very. I suppose you can call it different things. How do you deal with difficult clients or the realities of practice, complex, difficult case and clinical situations that emerge. How are we going to get out of this one?
Well, and this is the thing. To me, the difference between a decent homeopath and a successful homeopath
Yes.
is the capacity to manage cases long term.
Yeah.
And my beef with the homeopathy education system is that it places too much emphasis on this first remedy. Right. And so, the whole setup of the certification process revolves around 10 cases with 2 follow-ups. A monkey could learn to do 10 cases with 2 follow-ups. Most people who are sort of conversational human beings who are curious about people can take a good case. You just need to learn the parameters of case taking. And if you do it, if you've watched it a lot in action, if you've participated in conversations about all the different moves homeopaths make, and then that is a skill that can be learned. You need, because you learn it in the context of the information you're trying to get out of people. And the only way that you can really understand that is by watching a case that has 6 months of follow-up, a year of follow-up, 3 years of follow-up, 10 years of follow-up.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
That idea of finding the remedy is just, it's not real. It's not real in practice. And it sort of feeds the simillimum mythology. In other words, this idea that your homeopath, if they're really good and they can see into your soul, they're going to find your soulmate in the natural world, and it's going to make everything in your life change.
I had a really lovely conversation with Sankaran one day, Rajan. Mm-hmm. It was, I don't know, it's got to be probably 10 years ago, maybe 15, I don't know. And I was interviewing him. I said, how many of those cases do you get, those ones?
Yeah.
And he said, no, 5%.
Yeah.
And I went...
Just like the rest of us.
And I went, you're kidding. And inside, I went, And, and I thought to myself, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So on top of chronic and complex case management.
Wait, so hold on. So this idea of complex and chronic case management, this idea of the long-term follow-up becomes really important. So we look at complex pathologies and take that apart. So for example, my thing is in autoimmunity, and we spend, there are probably 8 sessions where we're talking about autoimmunity. We're talking about sort of the history and evolution of the language around it so we can understand what our clients are coming to. What are the external factors that contribute to, the broken immune systems and overreactive immune systems that we have today? And then looking at cases, really complicated cases, and the times when you make a move 6 months, a year, or 5 years down the road, and by going through and in detail some of these cases and saying, you see this is where a totality constricts, and you've got, say, 2 rubrics because something, an aphorism 153, strange, rare, and peculiar thing comes up, and you realize it's the moment to maybe give one of those smaller remedies or a very particular remedy that catapults a case forward, right, into the next level of healing. Or remedy reactions. It's one thing that for the CHC exam, you have to understand a little bit about, the Kentian and Vitolkian, reactions to remedies. But at the end of the day, can you apply that in year 5, right? Can you apply that to a case that is on a healing trajectory and you can't understand if they're having a healing crisis, if they're having a prominent discharge, if they're, whatever the case may be? That is, to me, that is something that is so, so important. But what I also recognize is that sometimes people need to get out of school for a year and come back and do that.
That's really interesting.
Right?
Right, good point.
Sometimes you get to the point, you take the certification exam, you take 6 months, see a bunch of cases, and then come back and say, I want to go deeper. It's nice to give them an opportunity to go deeper within the program that speaks the language, that already has all the contact points that they're familiar with, cases that they would have seen in clinic that we now have 5 years of history on that we can come back and teach more of. Right?
Method.
Talk about that. I love this.
Yeah. The additional topics, subjects that we realized were overcooked. No, not overcooked, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That found their way into the curriculum. Those things which, along the way, over the years, I've realized have been critical, I suppose, for me,
Right.
And so we teach James Compton Burnett,
Yeah.
organopathy, Schussler, keynote prescribing, exactly what is constitutional prescribing,
Yes.
what it's not, and all of those different methods. Berningshausen is required,
Yeah.
so we, that's taught earlier, and then making sure that everyone's really clear the differences between Kentian prescribing,
Yeah.
what all of the different interpretations of that. Sometimes called physical general prescribing or,
Right.
Whatever. And so all of those lectures
Yep.
are not required in the CHC or by Achina.
And then you and I each have a suite that we teach that is about critical thinking in contemporary process. So the one that I do is I use the periodic table as the example. Actually, I start with the early days of Sankaran and how the what was then called the sensation method that's now become the other song, sort of the how that came to be, looking at the different books and how Sankaran's work has evolved over time. Then we look at, he gets to the periodic table, then we look at Scholten and the beginning of that and looking at the history of chemistry and Dmitry Mendeleev and the predictive patterning of the periodic table, and then say, so how does the evolution of homeopathy fit into that? And then we start looking at provings. And then we have to look at contemporary provings to say, of the provings that are out there, what is the methodology that was used? How can we employ or deploy those remedies safely, effectively, and appropriately? When do you say, like, for example, there are trends in homeopathy. So people love the matrodonal remedies, right? Melissa Asalem, and these, remedies that all have to do with the female hormonal system and, remedies like Vernix. Well, Vernix, all of a sudden, you'd think it was a polycrest because the cease, providers and the folks who are working with, kids with sensory integration disorders, they throw that out there like it's candy. Well, you need to be able to ask, well, what data do we have on that remedy? Are you just giving it because a person doesn't have a buffer, And so really asking critical questions about the new materials, not to say don't use them, right? But to say, okay, well, if we just continue on there, some like the remedy placenta is so over repertorized. It comes up constantly in the repertory, right? It's like with the bird remedies. Peregrine falcon somehow found its way in. Well, if you're going to prescribe a bird remedy, you need to understand the different provings. Which ones are a C4 trituration proving and which one is an actual long-term proving where we can, assume the data. Do you want to give scarlet macaw because the person wears colorful clothing? Well, you need to know if you're choosing that, what are the clinical indications and how much have they been proved? So that's the level of, that's the depth and level of detail that we get into so that people aren't just, getting a repertory, learning how to master a tool and using it like a plug and play. Oh, this remedy came up highest in my analysis, right? You've got to be able to delve more deeply into the materials, the people, and the why, right?
So that content that we've just been speaking about is now has been pulled and is now at the end of our program, right?
But you could sign, like, if you were to say, hold on, I just want to do the program you've always offered, then just, it doesn't matter because we still offered exactly as it is.
And so how else would you describe the changes?
So the other thing is that we've had so many people come to us and say, I'd really love to learn with you, but I don't want to be a homeopath.
Right.
And I always say, yes, you do. It's the best job ever. But in reality, being a homeopath isn't for everyone. And so what we've done is that we've now made our program, it's kind of 4 chunks. So again, if you're already a student or you're just about to enroll, if you've enrolled in the full program, you're in the full program. Nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
But if you're someone who says, I actually don't want to do that, you now have options. So if you just want to do an intro And, there are lots and lots of intro programs. So, and some people say, well, I'd love to do an intro with you. Well, now you can. You can pop in, be in the first, is it 30 hours? I think it's the first 30.
No, 10.
Oh, 10.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what your meeting was yesterday. Okay. So you can do just a 10-hour, hello, this is what I'm interested in. And then you might say, you know what, actually, this feels like a good environment for me. I want to learn to be an acute prescriber. I don't want to get into chronic diseases. I don't want to do chronic clinic. I'm at a different phase of my life. You can then study acute prescribing with us. And what we're doing is we're helping people to be successful in acute prescribing, going beyond pulling a book off a shelf where, you've, like, everybody gives aconite because it's the first one that's in there. How many times have we seen those cases? We want you to be able to get to a level of nuance where you understand therapeutic prescribing. And look, this is something actually that's important because one of the challenges in homeopathy school is it's really hard to teach acute prescribing when there isn't hands-on application. And a lot of homeopaths who are trained in the post-Kentian tradition never actually learned a lot of acute prescribing. This is why so many people were drawn to protocols, because people who have trained in homeopathy have said, I can't even treat a cough. Well, the reality is that good homeopaths can and must be able to do that. And so our therapeutics program, our acute prescribing program, is based on a true understanding of the appropriateness of what we call small totality in acute prescribing, because acutes are a thing, and you need to be able to do that, and you need to be able to do it safely. So in the context of real Hahnemannian homeopathy, learning therapeutic prescribing, so learning through the acute conditions that drive acute prescribing in the context of the philosophy that teaches you to do it safely. So if somebody just wants to be an acute prescriber, you sign on for 1 and 2, and then there's an exit point. And, our hope is that people who find that they really have the skills and the passion might decide to go on and do, the certification program. But you can now say, I just want to opt in to be an acute prescriber. And the exit point means that you're trained to do good, safe acute prescribing, and you get a chance to intern on our helpline.
Yeah.
And that way you get to try it and see, how good do I feel about it? You're in a supervised setting. You're contributing to a body of evidence because you're learning how to do the research associated with acute prescribing. And if you decide that you love it, you can work on the helpline, or you can be an acute prescriber, right? There's no certification in the United States for that. We can't offer a certification. We can offer a certificate of completion that says, look, you've gone through this rigorous program where we've vetted you for safety and appropriateness. And part of this is that what we see on our helpline is that some people who have just a little bit of learning are using a lot of homeopathy and maybe not coming out on the other end healthier. We want to help people only use homeopathy in the way that it's intended to do. And sometimes, there's a downside to the overuse and misuse of homeopathy. And, who needs that? We can help you to actually do it in a way that's safe and appropriate.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the first entry point, come study with us for 10 hours. It's like, it's just an opportunity to be with people who are in homeopathy. You'll make new friends. You'll be a part of the AHE community. And then you can decide what you want to do. If you want to go further, do acute prescribing, great. We've got you set up for that. And then you culminate with working on the helpline. You're going to be really good at acute prescribing. You're going to have those skills down pat. You can sign up in the beginning to go all the way on to, I know that this is what I want to do. I want to get certified. You do the CHC Ready program. And that means you get everything that you need, including supervision. So now we get into, what do you expect from a homeopathy program? There are a lot of things that we can go into in more depth. You can go to our website. We're actually re-recording all the videos on there so you can see what is required. But at the end of the day, we've got a really affordable pathway to certification in homeopathy that includes one-to-one clinical supervision. So everything in the AHE program, including supervision, a very affordable pathway. And then we've got the gold package, or the plus, whatever we call it, which this is all of that, all the critical thinking, advanced case management, research, all of that. You can sign on from the very beginning. You can say, you know what, I know the type of learner that I am. I'm all in. Sign up for that, and you just seamlessly go through. You might say, I want to get certified and then come back and do that or see how I feel. You can do that too.
Damn. Love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah, me too, actually. I was sitting with Andrea yesterday, and we were just timetabling.
Andrea is our academic manager. She's amazing.
She is amazing. Shout out to Andrea.
Ooh.
My goodness.
Yep.
And just we were putting in the looking at where the holidays fall, and just how the cohort beginning in January is going to roll. So that's good. And so
our newest cohort starts at the end of January. So jump on in.
In other developments, the king has a homeopath.
He does indeed. But
he doesn't really.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. So in the tradition, I don't know if you know the traditions. I don't know. There's some gaps, but back in the 50s, Sir John Weir he wrote a bit about homeopathy. Was the king, then the Queen's physician, then Marjorie Blackie. Yeah. She wrote a bunch of books. Was the Queen's physician. And then essentially, there's a couple of gaps, but Peter Fisher was the Queen's physician, rheumatologist. He was. Yeah,
the late Peter Fisher. He passed how many years ago?
Oh, it's
4 or 5.
I think 3 years.
I think it was before COVID.
Before?
I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Denise and I have been speculating every now and again. Oh yeah, who's the next cab off the rank? And
you know who I was hoping it was going to be.
Who's that?
I don't want to say, but
yeah. Oh no, I mean, I think so. I work with Dr. Elizabeth Thompson in England at the Integrative Medicine Institute, NCIM, National Centre for Integrative Medicine, and I was kind of going, geez, I wonder if she's up for it actually. And then, but what they've done is they've gone with Michael Dixon.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because he is more of an integrative medicine physician, and I don't know if that's kind of rebranding necessarily.
But seen he's a homeopath. Is he?
I believe so, but he doesn't lead with it.
Yeah.
And he definitely leads with, and so he leads with the integrative medicine offerings. They call it the College of Medicine. It's confusing, but it's not a college. It's more of an association that represents integrative medicine. And I've heard him speak a couple of times and had a chat. And but you see that these days in integrative medicine, while there are the holistic and the whole healing systems like acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy, there's also green care, forest bathing, music and arts in medicine, as much as that. And I think because some of those techniques, rather than whole healing systems, are sometimes easier to create research projects around, that they're as prominent in integrative medicine as, say, homeopathy is. And so, there we go. So King Charles.
There was a shocker of an article in The Guardian.
Was there?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
no.
It was something like
a shocker.
The liberal elites. Why do they fall for this hooey?
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then they quoted all these amazing people who use homeopathy and basically said, they'd be great except for their, stupidity.
Mm. Yeah, the critiques, the lazy media critiques of homeopathy are still around for sure. But it's even broader now. The King's physician is not leading with homeopathy, but talking about complementary and integrative medicine, and they are still trying to, if you like, lazily humiliate users. That's a strategy that backfired. That's another really interesting development. I was surprised to see that land. I thought maybe Charles, he was just going to stay away from his fascination with complementary and integrative and homeopathic medicine.
You did? Oh, I didn't think so.
Well, I thought an announcement would have just come much quicker. You know,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
if they were going to do it, if he was going to do it, he would have done it differently. You know, of course, he's the patron of the Faculty of Homeopathy.
Yeah.
I even think that Manny's school has got a relationship with Charles in some way.
Well, he was at their, wasn't he at
Anniversary,
their 40th anniversary or something?
You know, I'm named after him.
Yes, I do. I know. Alastair Charles, yes.
Do you know my grandmother and my grandfather gave me a book, which the picture on the cover is imprinted on my mind forever. And it was a book, it was sort of early 70s, Charles, Royal Adventurer.
Oh my gosh, do you think that they still have it?
I think it was probably long gone.
Oh.
It was like Charles stepping into a helicopter.
Really?
Charles with a new kilt.
I thought you were going to talk about your grandparents going to the coronation.
Oh, no, they did.
Stool.
I mean, here's a stool
fact.
in a different way, in a non-homeopathic way.
Right.
Yeah, it turned out that my grandfather was a big wig in the Auckland Power Board, or one of the Auckland, major city in New Zealand, the Power Board. And somewhere in the late 40s and early 50s, Fiji had a lot of problems in relationship to power. And the New Zealand government sent him over to, I don't know, sort it out, armed with a pair of pliers and some number 8 fencing wire. And as a gift and as a thank you, they sent him and my grandmother to the coronation.
I just love
1952.
that story. Yeah.
Or two? Yeah, I think. And they've still got the stools, and they make
coronation chicken.
That soon went off, but they've still got the cake.
Oh yeah, they do. They still have the cake. But we were when we were in New Zealand, we were in Auckland having lunch. Gosh, a week ago,
yeah.
And there was a sign there was a British pub, and they were serving coronation chicken as the special that day.
Oh yeah, they were
that?
too. That's right. Delicious.
Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Other news? No, just that it's teaching is finished for this.
Not for the semester, but for the break. I know actually. We got a secret donation, and so someone sent Home Foundation $5,000. And anonymously, and said to use it as is needed in the organization. And I just want to say thank you, whoever you are. And gosh, we've gotten a few donations recently, which not a moment too soon. We were down to our last $600 in the foundation, which I nearly had a heart attack. And then we got 2 grants. And a few donations, and I just can't thank you all enough, whether you sent a donation or whether you just lit a candle that somebody else who would. We really appreciate it, because the work that is happening it's really exciting. We've got a meeting today, actually, just after we finish recording this, on the next phase of the development of our comfort care project. So this is homeopathy in palliative and end-of-life care. And gosh, we've been meeting every week. Sorry about the background noise. That's a dog. And before you heard the purring of the cat. But get a little reality here. Anyway, in our zoo, we've been meeting every week to talk about the logistics and the rollout of the program. And one of the things that really I think struck us all in a meeting recently was the realization that we have the potential to change a paradigm. There is such movement in the palliative care and hospice space. There is a way in which we're kind of waking up to help people in that transition and the end-of-life transition, and what had become a very medicalized event for so many people, sort of the rise of hospital-based care and the lack of traditional knowledge just left people unsure of what to do. And through a variety of events and changes in our consciousness, people are starting to honor that process a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? And so the work that we've been doing, I mean, a lot of it is really logistical. How do we manage the practitioners? How do we vet the practitioners? How do we manage the money around everything, right? All the logistical things, the legal aspects. We're doing brand new things like creating an advanced directive for people who want homeopathy as a part of their, final care. How do we do that? How do we figure out what the right amount to charge for the services? This will be, while it will run through our foundation, unlike HHN, the Homeopathy Help Now service, which is volunteer-based and education-based, this will be professional providers because of the, the level of care required. So people will be paid for their service, but, some administrative fee will come back to the, Home Foundation for administering the program. Anyway, all of that's happening. Plus, the research, so we are having to do a deep dive. It's been really exciting to learn about this space. I mean, I'm now 2 years into working on the development of this program, but, developing the curriculum for it, but also how do we create a research paradigm that asks the appropriate questions, that is going to contribute to the body of evidence out there that says homeopathy is safe and appropriate in X aspects of, the palliative care space.
Yeah.
So there's just so much happening. When we were in New Zealand, our last night we got to have dinner with one of Al's best friends,
Steve,
who I love with all my heart. He and his partner, who both actually work in palliative and end-of-life care. They're both mental health professionals, and Steve is a music therapist, and he works with kids who have terminal illnesses and who are dying, and their families. And Lynn manages some hospice providers. And we had a great conversation about research and evidence, but also about traditional practices, because they are guided by the Maori traditional practices and influences in all that they do in the mental health space, but in particular in the rituals around death and dying. And so they're going to help our team to learn more, where we can see how sort of the, indigenous practices and how the holistic, just, practices of the millennia can be employed in a 21st century context. And so, I invite people who listen to the podcast and who, may have expertise in this, or maybe your particular tradition offers some practices, some protocols, any advice, as we're assembling this body of work. We're working on a book that is going to go with it for practitioners. I can imagine that there will be information for caregivers that will help to guide people, who are new to this. We're learning a lot through the death doula movement and through the hospice movement. There's so much. Every time I turn around, there's new information out there. It's pretty amazing. So that's been a big deal for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I was going to say, just from the research side, that a significant grant landed with us.
Yes.
For this project in particular, which is just, I'm so grateful. It's astonishing. Anyway, I'm really excited to climb into the outputs. You're going to drive the clinical part. But one of the things which I can, commit to is that nothing around this initiative will not be published. It's like, let's use this as an opportunity to see if we are useful, and how are we going to measure that, and how are we going to discuss it and describe it.
Some great conversations around that, because outcomes are different. So when, just to sort of give you an idea of the level of detail that goes into this, so reworking a health inventory form, right? So if you are a regular listener to our podcast or follow our research office, one of the things that we've been working on is creating a universal health inventory form. In other words, homeopaths, most if not almost all homeopaths collect data from their clients before meeting with them. And it is just a treasure trove of information. So what we're trying to do is create a consistent form that everyone can use so that there is a seamless way that that information feeds back to our research office. So the process that we're working on is one where it just automatically comes back to us and it's double de-identified in accordance with human subject research. So in other words, if you're going to a homeopath and the data is coming to us, you can rest assured that your name has been scrubbed. There's just a numerical reference for it so that it, so that you're contributing, your information is contributing in a way that is not, that is obviously not traceable back to an individual. But what that tells us is, who's coming to the homeopath, what, the demographic, psychographic information, what their goals are, if they're on medication, if they've got a diagnosis and so on and so forth. There's a very different set of questions that have to be asked if someone has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. We've been working through with Molly Punzo, who is our medical director for the research office. It's just amazing to have someone who has not just her medical knowledge, but she's worked institutionally in sort of the the back offices of all of the, all the medical information. I can't think of what her actual job was. But anyway, it's been super helpful because we've been with her and Molly Erlinger, who's one of our AHE alumni, who actually did her capstone project in research on the use of benzodiazepines in the palliative care space and did a lot of incredible research there. So what the two of them, we just call them the Mollies on that team, what the two of them are working on are sort of what are the questions that we have to ask that have to be on our forms. Like, for example, are you still mobile? If someone has been given, a particular diagnosis, are they, or are they hospice eligible? Are they in the final stages of life? So it's an unbelievable amount of information that, we're creating order out of an evolving medical paradigm. And I can remember going back, years ago, I presented twice at a conference that was an integrative medical conference. And the first time, people still say they see this video. It was from 2015. It was video. Spirituality and Medicine.
Yep.
And after I presented, I was talking to a handful of the docs there, and they were saying, homeopathy needs to be in the end of life and palliative care space because a lot of the, big pharma money, it's not going in. There's not a lot that goes into it. They're using benzos, they're using, whatever, pain meds and so forth. And there's just a lot to be done in good quality care. And it's always stuck in my mind that this was a space that needed, that we needed to get into. And I know that there are lots of individual homeopaths who work in the space. I mean, I've been doing it for a really long time. But I think when we come together in community and we work with it's like yesterday I had a meeting with Jen from Resilience Homeopathy. It's the naturopathic practice that specializes in pans and pandas. And we were talking about research yesterday because, I'm hoping to, that we can have some sort of working relationship where we can, we can help them with researching the very important information they're gathering, because what they've got is a whole lot of practitioners who are doing a whole lot of work. And we were talking about how the impact, it's sort of like how they measure seismic activity. The impact is not linear, it's exponential, right? So you get a homeopath working alone or two or three homeopaths working together, but you get a team of people working together. All of a sudden, the impact that we can make in getting information out to the public.
And they're collecting data?
Not really. That's why I reached out to them to say, we need to help you. We're going to meet after the first of the year to really be strategic because, they're doing this work. They've got volume. So
that's an immediate cohort study and an immediate clinical trial.
I'm on it, babe.
All right.
Yeah, we already set this in motion. But
okay, good.
But I say this because for people who, if you're still listening, it means that you really care about homeopathy and the work that's being done. That's not just let's find a good remedy for X, Y, or Z, but actually let's make a change in the world. And that's the message that I kind of want to end with here on our sort of, end of the calendar year.
End of the calendar year.
Possibly. I think we'll probably do one
podcast.
More. Probably do another one. I want to do another one on Benninghausen before we go to Italy. But anyway, but the message that I want to end on is about unity and community. And I never thought about unity as at the end of community.
Community.
Unity.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Huh.
Duh. Everybody's probably out there going like, hello, Denise. Yeah. But
people.
There's a
People
way in
unity.
which, when we come together and we really work together, we put our differences aside and we go forward with what we have in common. And for us, it's the knowledge that this system of medicine is amazing. And when we do a really good job with it, and if we get enough people really working together with a positive message, a positive force, and showing, and that's what that's what our research office is how can we take all the evidence that we've got and communicate it in a 21st century setting to start to really get a hum happening about it, because the system that we have is struggling. And that doesn't mean that less people need care if less people can be serviced, right? It means that we need to find other alternatives, and homeopathy is one of them. But we need to show that we can do it. And we also, like those of you who listened to the last, episode on Benninghausen, there was a whole part of it where we were talking about the materials that we use and the vetting of materials, and how the game of telephone that has made homeopathy into some, pseudo psycho-spiritual, whatever, shamanic modality. There's actually, it's different than that. Right? People can add that as the flavor of the way that they interact with their clients, but we need to really dig into what homeopathy is so that we can show it in the clinical setting as being effective. So end of year message is for community, right?
You are activated today.
Whee!
Is it just purely the caffeine? No, I think you are.
I had a lot of decaf.
Yeah.
I did have one for my new machine.
You know my message?
What's your message?
It's just thanks to all of our students. Thank you for showing up and doing the job. And thanks to everyone that works with us, faculty at the front end. And I mean, some of the people we work with, they give and give and give and give.
Gosh, it takes a village. We use Slack. It's our productivity app, and you can see on the general channel, which is everyone who is a part of it. There are, I think, 200 people who support this organization, whether they're students, faculty, supervisors, volunteers on the helpline, researchers.
It's ridiculous.
It's amazing. You got me all choked up.
I know. Look at you. If we come back and we're live and on video, how are you going to deal with all of the?
How I get choked up.
All of that stuff.
I get a red nose. Is my nose red? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Rudolph
anyway,
the red-nosed reindeer.
Thank you all for being here.
That's it. All right. See you, folks.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Home Foundation is hard at work. The Practitioner-Generated Research Network is like nothing the homeopathy community has seen before. Through the PGRN, we will be able to bring groundbreaking research to the world that will help protect homeopathy for generations to come. Learn more about how you can contribute to research at homefoundation.org. That's home, HOHM, foundation.org. A new January cohort is starting in just a few weeks. Many of you told us you didn't want to wait until September to start homeopathy school, and we listened. This part-time cohort will start January 29th, so get your application in now at ahe.online. Amy, our admissions specialist, is standing by to help you through the enrollment process. See you soon! For the first time ever, AHE is offering our introductory course to homeopathy. You've been listening to the podcast, you know Denise and Al, and now you can get a taste of the classroom experience with our introductory course. This course is $2.99 and self-paced. You can take it at your convenience when kiddos are in bed or when you have a minute here and there. If you're interested in taking this course, please head to ahe.online.